Everyone comes with nothing. Everyone leaves with nothing. Man, think about that as you look at all the things you have. You will take nothing with you. Stay tuned. Hi, my name is David Nyavin from Three Nail Studios. We continue the walk and journey through Ecclesiastes. Today we'll be covering chapter 5 and chapter 6. These are a little bit different chapters, but we're still getting to the point of what the writer is trying to tell us. He starts off something a little bit different here. He's starting to introduce God more in the previous chapters, but today I feel like what he's saying at this moment, he's saying, when you come to God, remember this. Picture this for a moment. Just wait one moment and picture this. Because what the writer is saying is, when you come to God, come to listen. Don't come to give him words. Now you might say, wait, doesn't God want to listen to me? But picture this. Think about that person you always wanted to talk to, that famous person, that person that can just enlighten you with knowledge. Would you come to them and just talk and talk and talk? No, you would come to them to listen, right? Because they're the ones with the knowledge. They're the ones that are going to give you what to do next. They're the ones that are going to teach you how to take the next step. But yeah, with God, we want to come and talk and talk and talk. Yet he's the creator of the whole universe. So when you come to God, the writer says, come to God ready to listen. But then he says something very interesting. And I've taken this in my life. He says, if you're coming to God to make a vow, a promise, make sure you are ready to keep it and to fulfill it. For it is better for you to have never have made it if you had no intentions to keep it. Did you get that? Make sure you come to God ready to fulfill the promise you want to keep. If not, don't do it. You're better off being a fool somewhere else than to come to God with a fake promise. Because remember, he is God. He goes and continues to talk about riches. Now, I think about this. As a king, wouldn't you say, well, you're the king. Of course you can say riches are meaningless because you've experienced it. But the king is saying, all these riches, man, they just carry a burden. It says, if you see the poor oppressed in verse 8, in a district, justice and rights denied, do not be surprised. This is happening everywhere. Whoever loves money, in verse 10, never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied. This too is meaningless. Oh yes, I've heard this before. If you love money, that's not good for you. If you love riches, that's not good for you. Yes, it's good for you to say you're the king. Come on, you have everything. But remember, he's the one that's experienced it. Wouldn't we take advice from him? He says something so interesting. When you go to work, let's just say you're not in charge of a whole lot of people. You leave work, you clock out, and you're done, right? You go home and you get to rest. You don't think about work. But the more responsibility you have at work, the more titles you carry. You can't go home and sleep because as soon as you clock out, your phone is still ringing. You got to check your emails. When you go to sleep, you got to wonder, is someone going to steal at my job? Is someone going to take this? What the king is saying, what the writer is saying, the more you have, the less you will be able to rest because the more you have to think about. That's why he's saying riches are meaningless, because then you don't get to enjoy this life that God has given you. And that's what he's trying to get you to think about. Think about riches bring you more burden and less rest. He continues and talks about how he has seen the riches being hoarded, being gathered around, and it creates so much evil because you can never have enough and it can never satisfy you. Like the intro says, how you came. In verse 15, he makes it so vivid. He says, everyone comes naked from their mother's womb, and as everyone comes, so they will depart. They take nothing from their toil, and they can carry in their hands. You can't die and go to the grave carrying all your wealth. It doesn't matter anymore. All you work for doesn't matter. He says, this is so evil. Why? Because you worked for all your life, and yet you cannot take it with you. We've seen many pyramids built with treasures, yet the person that died and that king that was there can't carry and take anything with him. He closes off chapter 5 with something that makes you think as we go into chapter 6. It says, God has allowed us to enjoy some of these things so then we don't carry the burden and always being stressed that we will all eventually die. Yes, he wants you to enjoy what you have. As we get to chapter 6, he says something that stands out. He says, God has given some people wealth, possessions, and honor. Again, this is something that was good to study because there's many times in the Bible that it mentions that God did something. God has given this. God has caused this. God brought this. The most popular and famous one is God has hardened a heart. That's another study. But God has allowed some people to just have wealth. But for some reason, the people that God has allowed to have wealth, He doesn't control the ability for them to enjoy it. Because not only is there a benefit to have wealth, but it's also to enjoy it. Because if you have wealth and can enjoy it, then are you really wealthy? He says that if you can even enjoy the prosperity that you have in chapter 6, a stillborn child is better off than you, because you will carry this toil and burden to your grave and never get to enjoy everything you have worked for. It says, verse 8, what advantage have the wise over fools? What do the poor gain by knowing how to conduct themselves? Better what the eye sees, in verse 9, than roving of the appetite. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. What does this mean? It means that you want to conduct yourself good around people. You want to have wealth. You want to do this. But this chasing that you're doing, it's all going to go away. Again, it is not saying not to do it. It is not saying that it is not good. It is saying to do it in the right way. And that is what? With God. Because chasing after it just to chase it and just to get the next title will only bring you more burdens, more pain, more toil, because at the end, you will have less time to enjoy it. We live in a world where we like to think about the new creation, the new invention. What exists has already been known. No one can contend with someone who is stronger, meaning I can create something, but someone else has probably done something the same. What he is saying is take pride in moments in this time right now. Stop trying to chase after the next thing. You can do it, but just saying be careful, because it will bring this burden and toil in your life that at the end you might find yourself in the position that you have dreamed. You find yourself in that office on the 20th floor of the building. You don't remember who was there before. All you think about is, I am here now. But then when you're there, you can't enjoy it, because the burden of that position, of that office, carries so much toil that at times you're like, I just want to give it up. He closes off chapter 6 by saying something in verse 12. For who knows what is good in a person's life? During the few and meaningless days they pass through like a shadow. You ever stop to wonder how fast time just goes? You ever stop to wonder how quick you've gotten to this point? Yet you never thought you would be at this point. I never thought I would be at this point in my life. And I'm doing something with it right now. And all I think about is I have less time than I did before. And I carry this burden with it. I could have done it before. Stay with this as I leave you right now. Take advantage of the time you have right now. Stop thinking about what you're going to do in 5 years or in 10 years. Think about that moment right now as I leave you in chapter 6. Stay tuned for the next video. Stay with that thought. Right now is the moment to change everything. Right now. Not tomorrow, not the next day, not 2 years from now. Also, stop thinking about the past. Forget it. It's gone. It's done. Right now. If you like what you're seeing, comment down below. Like us, share us, subscribe to our channel. Again, this is David Yabe with 3 Nail Studios.